Welcome to Auntie Life Unfiltered, the podcast where we say the things everyone else whispers, feels, or pretends they're totally fine about. Around here, nothing is too awkward, too messy, or too, oh my god, did she really just say that? Yes, I did. This is your space for real talk, real stories, real emotions, and the kind of honesty that makes you laugh, cry, and heal a little. Sometimes all at once. So grab your drink, get comfy, and let's dive in. Because life's too short to sugarcoat it, and I'm not here to do that anyway. Welcome to Auntie Life Unfiltered. Let's get into it. Hey guys, welcome back to Auntie Life Unfiltered. Today's episode is a real one. We're talking life, pain, and purpose. I have Jonathan Goebel on today, and he's sharing a story about the realities he's faced. From life on the road as a truck driver to navigating mental health, chronic pain, and systems that don't always work the way they should. And out of all that, he's building something to help others through those same struggles. We're going to let this flow and take it one step at a time. Welcome, Jonathan. Thanks for joining me today.
Good morning. Thank you.
Absolutely. I'm so glad to have you here today. And we'll get a little bit more into it, but I'm really excited about your project that you started to help those in need. Of course, we'll share your story and lead up to what made you want to start that, and then let everybody know where you're at, how they can help and support with that as well.
Sounds good.
So before we deep dive, if you just want to tell a little bit fun things about you, who you are outside of work or outside of what you do with your app, just a little bit about Jonathan.
A little bit about me. Not a whole lot to say. I'm a father of three and very dedicated to that. Whenever my kids are around, we try to, do as much fun stuff as we can. We like to go on adventures, hikes, bike rides, things like that.
Nice,
Um,
yeah.
yeah, board games also. Yeah, my
Oh,
mom is
yeah.
my emotional support animal.
Aw, I love it. My mom is as well. She's one of my best friends, so I understand that. We're a big board game family as well.
You
I
can't
can't
go
have
wrong with playing.
children, no, but my nieces are my world. They're 12 and 11, and that's still something we all like to do together is play board games. So,
What's your favorite?
growing up, I love Sorry. I've always been at a Trivial Pursuit. Like I've played that since the 90s. And nowadays. There's a fun game with the girls. It's not quite a board game where you put like a thing on your forehead, like headbands, I think it's called. And other
Okay.
people have to guess give you suggestions, kind of like charades or something like that, just so you can guess what it is. So that's always fun with them, and everybody has a good time with that. So, what is
I,
one of
I
your
find
family's favorite?
Well, I highly recommend. There's a version for kids for Cards Against Humanity. It's
Oh, yeah.
Children Create Absurdity,
Yeah.
and that is a fantastic game.
Oh, I love it. Yeah, we love Cards Against Humanity, and actually, I have a lot of packs of them. I don't think I have the kids' version, but what I did one day, because my nieces wanted to play, was sit there for like 2 hours and pick out all the kid-appropriate ones, so or what
That's
I
a
thought they
hard
would
thing to do right
understand.
there.
Yeah, it is. Something not too crazy. I mean, they watch Bob's Burgers and all that stuff since they were born, so they understand. My brother,
Fair enough.
I think a lot of parenting, especially millennials our age, your kids know like cuss words and stuff like that, but they know the proper way to use them and stuff. So,
Damn it,
yeah,
kids will be kids.
absolutely. So, if you'd like to share your story in your own words, kind of start at the beginning or how everything started for you to lead to where you are now in life.
I wouldn't really know exactly where to start, but I didn't have the best childhood growing up. I had a loving mom. She took care of me and my siblings the best she could, and there was a few rough spots there in our youth. I struggled a lot with my anger issues. I would say a lot of that came from uh, maybe not fully understanding how my brain works.
Mm. Yeah.
Um, I didn't get diagnosed until I was an adult with ADHD, and I've also been told I may have autism, so that's a fun one. Just found that one
Yeah.
out recently. But you know, um, I joined the Navy when I was 17 years old, and that was in 2000. 2001, I suffered an injury in my L5 lower back. They called it spondylolisthesis, but they tried to tell me that it was a pre-existing condition, which I never had any issues before that. And what they did was they put me on the heaviest medication they could put me on at the time, which was Oxycontin 80s,
Mm.
and I thought that was a bit overkill, uh,
Yeah.
from the size and the fact that it just felt like a pulled muscle at the time. So, I basically was stoned out of my damn mind, and the Navy told me that they were gonna, charge me with a crime, for falsely representing my, condition, which I didn't know I even had, and, they made me basically sign away my rights for any help with the Navy, and then they kicked me out, and,
Oh,
that put me down a path. It took about it was like 4, almost 5 years of just heavy drug use after that. Um, in 2005, I, wanted to get clean. I was struggling hard. I was afraid I was gonna die, and, with my mom's help, I had her, supporting me in that endeavor there, but, it took a little bit of work to get clean. I tried doing the NA and AA stuff, but, at the time, I was an, atheist, and the
mhm.
idea of, giving myself to a higher power was just kinda not okay with me.
Yeah.
So, I kinda struggled with the sobriety because of that, and, I actually started working on my own version of NA that didn't involve, um, a higher power and all that. I never
Yeah.
did anything with the idea, but, I would say that arguably that was the very beginning of what I'm creating now.
Yeah.
Um, let's see, I got clean. I stayed clean for the most part all the way up until now. I fell off the wagon a couple times, but, it's a journey, not a, destination, right? That's what they say
Right.
about it.
Exactly. Absolutely. Yeah, thanks
I
for sharing all that with us. I feel for you on that with the NA and AA. I'm not super spiritual. I'm kind of more, just like nature, things like that. I don't really know what I truly believe in and stuff like that. And I actually just made a post the other day, like, stop pushing that narrative on everybody. Not everybody feels the same way, or, it said, when you're praying for somebody or wishing them well, not everybody wants God involved on that. So I completely understand that. And I am a lost mom, and I actually joined a support group in the Norwalk area a couple of years ago. And that's what
mhm,
turned me off from it was they were all super religious, all went to church, were all involved in the church, and just like that's all they
yeah,
talked about. And I was like, I don't think this is for me. So, yeah, and nothing against anybody that does. Everyone should believe what
yeah.
they wanna believe, but I completely understand being turned away from that because of that, so.
Well, and everybody that's in those positions, they mean well, so I don't
Mhm.
hold any ill will towards anybody that is very,
Yeah.
pushy with their religion.
Mhm.
They don't do it out of hatred or spite or
Mhm.
anything like that, but,
No.
we all heal differently, in every
Absolutely.
way, whether it's drug abuse or trauma, grief, it's
Mhm.
everybody's different, and especially for people like us with neurotypical mind or not
Mhm.
neurotypical, neurodivergent minds,
Yes.
we do things a little bit different.
Absolutely. Yes. Yeah, and thank you for sharing, what the Navy, what you started there and how that started your drug addiction. That's something that I've wanted to share on this podcast, and it's come up time and time again. Is 9 times out of 10, somebody's just not going to pick up a pill or pick up a needle or start doing crack or meth just because. There's something that led to them doing that, whether they got hurt, whether they were
Sure.
prescribed something, whether they had extreme tragedy. Like, a lot of people, that's one thing I'm trying to break is the stigma that, like everybody's like, "Oh, they're just lazy drug addicts." No. It can happen to anyone, anybody in any
Mhm.
walks of life, and you
Oh,
are
yeah.
not better than the next person, so.
Hey, I held down a full-time job and was a fully functioning addict. I was doing things like heroin and meth, and I was
Mhm.
still functioning,
Yeah.
paying taxes, doing work.
Right. Yeah.
But it was getting to a point to where it coulda killed me, and I'm lucky to be alive even to this day.
Well, that's great, and I'm proud of you for that. I have had my own struggles. I haven't shared my exact story on here yet. I will someday. I'm not quite ready for that road, but I personally around me, my husband, our friends, we've lost friends to addiction, and I know how it is to help yourself get out of that. Not everybody gets to go to rehab or something like that. It's a lot, but to be able to pull yourself out of that with, like you said, your mom's support or friends or partners, it's a lot, and I give everybody a lot of credit that does that, so.
Well, when I was going through the process, I reached out to at the time I believe it was Firelands, um, behavioral health. They
Oh,
were
okay.
doing
Mhm.
the addiction stuff.
Mhm.
This was back in '05.
Yeah.
Um, I wanted to do their rehab program, and they wanted to put me in group therapy, which
Mhm.
would have been fine if I wasn't the only person in there that wasn't court ordered to be there.
Yeah.
So trying to get clean when you're around a bunch of people that don't want to get clean is not an
Yeah.
easy thing to do. In fact, I
No.
ended up having to kind of remove myself from my friend groups because everybody I knew was on drugs or alcohol abuse.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Oh,
it's
yeah.
not easy to get clean and stay sober when you're around all that. So
Absolutely not. That's a good point, especially in this small rural Huron County area, that's everywhere, and I know people we've had to cut people out of our lives, and, it's unfortunate, or I've had a friend that was clean for many, many years. He came back into our life and was doing great, and he kinda disappeared for a little bit, kinda worried. Didn't really talk to him, and then I seen his obituary in the paper one day, like, it was just a shock, you just takes
yeah,
going around those people one more time, like, "I'm just gonna do it one more time," so
yeah, I've lost friends, I've lost family to drugs.
mhm,
It's
yeah,
not an easy thing.
absolutely
No.
not, and I would never judge anybody on that, and we all have been through something involving that, so thank you for sharing that with us.
Yeah, it actually led me to becoming a truck driver, which is
Nope,
what I
that was
do.
gonna be my next segment. We're gonna lead into you being a truck driver for 20 years, so
Yeah, it was to get away from drugs.
yeah, that's smart, you're kinda in your own, but there's probably stuff on the road too that is hard for somebody that's in addiction and, addiction and recovery, so
Mhm. Well, it helps, being
yeah.
away from it all.
Absolutely. So that was what I was gonna lead into, was you working in the trucking, and you've talked about how the mental side of trucking and, what was that like for you personally?
Well, I would say the first couple of years wasn't so bad. I stayed working mostly local, so I still was able to hang out with friends and family at the time. But once I started having kids and needing to make a little bit more money, I decided to go over the road. And
Mhm.
that's a real struggle right there because you're away from your family, you're away from your friends, and you're working goofy hours, and you don't get to see nobody, you don't get to talk to nobody. And at the time, these cell phones were still pretty new.
Yeah.
I was very much not a cell phone guy, but it was tough. You can't talk to nobody. All you have your thoughts. You're alone with your thoughts. There's no escape from it. I mean, you can have music. I listen to ungodly amounts of music, but or podcasts now. But uh,
Yeah.
the uh, the reality of being out on the road is it's extremely stressful. It's extremely lonely.
Yeah.
If you do need to see a doctor, you have to be able to communicate with them during business hours, and then you have to set up an appointment. Usually, in order, even now with what I do locally, in order to get a doctor's appointment at the right time of day, I almost have to miss an entire day of work just to go to it. And
Yeah.
that's especially paying child support. It's extremely rough to miss an entire day of work. So
Absolutely. Yeah.
mental health usually gets put on the back burner.
Yeah. Yeah, I understand that even. I work from home and it becomes pretty isolating. I've been going on for 5 years now. It's also saved my mental health as well. Like, I was starting to get that social anxiety. I've always worked in customer service since I was 15, 16 years old. And I enjoy the customer interaction, but that being in person really started to get to me, and I have some PTSD and anxiety and stuff, and just working person face to face really started to get to me. So I still work in customer service, but it's behind a computer. I can be at home, I can have all my little things, relax in my own environment. So yeah, it
Yeah,
definitely
truck
helps,
driver's
but
good for
it's
me.
isolating too. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not great with being around a lot of people.
Mhm.
I get a little awkward, so to speak.
Yeah.
Like even right now, even though we're doing this over the phone, um, it's still like nerve wracking for me just
Yeah,
to
I understand.
communicate with people. And I've
Yeah.
been a truck driver for so long that just trying to have a regular conversation with somebody is a bit of a challenge because I'm not used to conversing with people.
Yeah. I get that, and that's one reason I started the podcast is because I was feeling so, like, isolated from people, and, like, my getting out is going to the grocery store and stuff like that. Like, I don't really do a whole lot. You had mentioned music. Me and my husband are really into music. My husband was a metal drummer for many years, locally. And we go to incarceration and stuff like that every year. So that, and it's funny because there's so many people there. And like I like people, it's weird. Like I don't and I don't do, I get that social anxiety and
Yeah.
stuff too, but in that environment is totally different. So
What was the last concert you went to?
the last concert was Chimera Christmas this past December. My husband's a huge Chimera fan, which led me to be a Chimera fan. That's probably the band I've seen most in concert. I think
Okay.
7 or 8 times now. And they did their last Christmas concert. They've done that since the early 2000s, and this was their last official Christmas one. So we had to go to that. So that was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So,
The last concert I went to was Lorna Shore.
oh, nice. Hell yeah.
Yeah. That was a good concert.
Yeah, we like Lorna Shore, so we listen to anything. And I'm a polyjammerist, as they say nowadays. I listen to everything. So I love rap, I love country, I love hip hop, R&B, metal, old classic rock. I'll throw some jazz in there, reggae. I
Yeah,
listen to everything. So
I
my
do too.
playlists are up and down. So
I'd say a fair amount of my tattoos are music related also. So
yeah,
yeah,
that's
I
awesome.
listen to all
Yeah.
kinds of stuff too.
Yeah. And it's therapeutic, and that's something I've been sharing on this is music is so helpful, and like there's
Mhm.
so many ways that you can get relief from mental health or anything that you're going through by going to a concert or just playing one of your favorite songs. So,
You want a song to bring tears to your eyes? Listen to Another Ghost by Upon a Burn a Body.
okay. Yeah, I'll check that out. I've listened to them, but I don't know if I've listened to that song specifically. So,
That song's really deep. It has to do with drug addiction.
oh, okay. Yeah,
Yeah,
I'll definitely check that out.
very powerful song. Makes me
Yeah,
cry every time I listen to it.
Oh, yeah. I love songs like that though. Sometimes you just need that. So,
Mhm.
as I said, and this is sometimes people are probably like, really? But as I said, I listen to all genres. My favorite song for I call them my sweet beat babies, my children that I lost is it's called Slipped Away by Avril Lavigne. So, but
Okay.
it's a really good song, but it's one of those two that will definitely get you in your feelings and everything. So, and
Yeah,
I
yeah.
love Snuff by Slipknot. I had Mary on here recently. She's the leading operations manager of We Are the Taylor Foundation. So that was really cool to
Yeah.
have that in and talk to somebody, so close to Corey Taylor, and he's so
Mhm.
big in the mental health field as well. So
Yeah, I enjoyed that episode. Yeah, that was a good one.
yeah, that was a lot of fun. She was super nervous too. She's with people all day, every day, and she was so nervous to record. So just know it's not you. Everybody feels that way. So
Sure, sure. Yeah, she seemed like
yeah.
she's cool people.
She's awesome. I love her. And actually, Chris, his name is Chris Morgan. He's actually from the Norwalk area as well. He introduced me to Mary. So he's trying to
Okay.
start a little project too. I won't go into too much detail, but he kind of wants to do a new Live Nation where, modern bands and local bands put on a big concert for mental health field. So
Nice. That's
yep, and
good.
she's helping him with that, so that's awesome. So, and he
Awesome.
works with the Demons Behind Me program. I'm not sure if you're familiar with them.
Doesn't
They
ring a
were two
bell.
guys that were in the military as well.
Mhm.
And they kind of got out, and the one has a tattoo of a demon on his leg. And they were just kind of
Okay.
making a joke one day, like, "Why do you have that?" And he's like, "Because I put my demons behind me." So they started a clothing company, and it all goes to like mental health and helping veterans. And they go to incarceration and all the festivals and stuff too. So.
Nice.
Yeah.
With
People
mental
don't
health,
think
I
of
got
metal with metal. Yeah.
see
Fucking
that.
nuts, knuckin' futs. Yeah. I love it. That's great. So you had mentioned when we were talking about trucking, you brought up child support, and that was another subject we were going to talk about today.
Mhm.
You talked about how the pressure from the child support system. Can you explain what that looked like for you or what it does look like for you?
Well, so in Ohio, if you get behind in your child support, which, you know, a lot of people do, and for any variety of reasons, but if you do get behind, Ohio has a law that states that they could take your license from you. And for truck drivers, that's a
Yeah.
pretty big, pretty big deal that you don't want to lose your license. But at the same time, some people like myself are paying a lot. And it might not seem like a lot when you break it down to a per child basis, but when it's based on your income, sometimes it can be pretty crippling.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
right, kind of have to live with my mom because it's pretty significant amount. When you
Mm-hmm.
got the way the system's set up in Ohio, um, if you are in the poverty range, you can get some assistance through the state, food stamps, Medicare, stuff like that. But the child support is never taken into consideration for the people that are paying it. So, like, if I needed help and I go in there, they're like, "Oh, well, you're making X amount of money. You're making too much." It's like, well, yeah, I make that much, but I don't take that much home.
Yeah.
So, I'm forced into a position to where I have to rely on other people to help me out, and that's not cool. Most men prefer to not be in a position like that, you know?
Yeah.
We don't wanna have to ask for help. We wanna be the ones that are providing, and, it's a pretty unfortunate position to be in, but, when your pullout game sucks like mine, you're gonna have that.
Yeah.
But, something that you don't hear talked about a lot is the depression that comes from that. And it's not even just the child support, even in the truck driving industry that, the truck driving industry is in the top 5 for like, most, like the highest suicide rates. Um, and, having child support added on top of it, we go through the most divorces. Well, maybe not the most, but we're up there,
Yeah,
for,
that makes sense.
it's lonely, it's depressing, nobody loves us when we're out there. We get disrespected by the people on the roads.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a high level of suicide rates, and I've suffered a great deal from that ideation, and even very recently I was struggling with it. Um I was very close to not being here just not 2 months ago. So, it's a lifelong struggle, and being out on the road for 20 years and child support, and not getting to see your kids as much as you want. If
Yeah.
it was up to me, I'd see my kids every day, but I'm not in a
Yeah.
position to be able to do that, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Um, but I don't know where I
I
was
think
going with
you're
that.
fine.
Well,
No, I
thanks.
appreciate you sharing all that. I think it's very important that you brought that to light. That's something I'm trying to bring light to on this podcast is the men's mental health. That side. A lot of times guys are overlooked. You guys are expected to just work and, set your feelings to the side. And I know personally from friends and family and stuff like that, Ohio is very unfair when it comes to child support and all of that, especially with the dads. And as you said, like the moms can get help, get food stamps, get everything, and they're getting the extra income from you, but your income being taken from you doesn't, count when you're trying to get help. So I completely understand that. And
Well,
the,
I'm
you know,
not
the
allowed to I'm not allowed to take credit for my child support when I'm asking for help, but they don't have to report it as income when they go for
yeah,
help. So they can get help plus get that extra money.
yeah,
So, yeah, it's a little bit unfair in that sense, but,
it is. Yeah,
it's the responsibility that we as fathers, and there's
right.
plenty of women that are in the same position, so
Oh
I don't
yeah,
wanna exclude them either, but, you
yeah,
know, as parents, we have a responsibility, and sometimes it's unfortunate. One of
yeah,
the biggest things that sucks about the whole thing is that if I get injured or if I'm off of work for any amount of time, I'm still required to pay my child support during that time. They don't stop the child support. And if
yeah.
I get behind, I have to pay that still.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah,
like, if I was to say we get into an accident and not be able to work for 6, 7 months, the government does not care. They
yeah,
still will take the child support as if I was paying it. Now, like in the winter times when I get laid off from my seasonal job, if I don't go and find a job, um, I can do my unemployment, but my unemployment, they take the child support out of that first
yeah.
and then
At least you
taxes.
not as much. Yeah.
So, yeah, I'll be left with like maybe $100 a week if I'm lucky,
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
you can't live off of that.
No.
So it's another one of those things that just adds to the stress, which adds to the depression, which, you know, it's like, well, maybe I can just be done with it. It's very stressful. It's not an easy thing to live through, but, you know, unfortunately, there's a lot of people that can't and don't, and they succeed in that desire to end it, and it's unfortunate. This big part of why I'm building what I'm building.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that with us. And I understand that it's a lot. And, it is a lot of times just easier to be done with all that because, you try and you try and you try and you're not getting anywhere and things keep happening. I can't relate to you specifically, but I've had my own dark thoughts. I've gone through deep, dark depressions where I didn't want to be here either. And there's so much that can lead a person to that, and I think it's so strong of us to not, and to come through and not saying that the people that did it, I do not disrespect them at all. I completely respect those people and feel for them and feel for their families, and a lot of times, and you mentioned, the statistics of truck driving, people probably don't realize that. Of course, you have the military and the veterans, of course, the suicide rate is high there,
Mhm.
but you don't think about the truck drivers out there, and you brought up a good point too, like, a lot of people disrespect truck drivers and, like, cut you guys off and treat you guys like crap, act like you guys are nasty people and stuff like that. I've had truck drivers in my life, my whole life. My uncles were truck drivers, my dad was a diesel mechanic, so I've been around that my whole life. I would never even on the road, I try to be cautious and make sure that you guys have your space and try to pay attention, and I feel safer around the truckers, honestly, when I'm on the road, especially traveling on, like, a highway or something, so
Well, unfortunately, there's a whole lot of truck drivers that are getting injected
yeah,
into the system right now that are not being properly trained, they're not
true,
safe.
that's scary, yeah.
And then you add on top of that the things that they're hauling, like
Mhm,
me, for example, I haul liquid asphalt,
mhm.
and,
Yeah,
bit of a hazardous material, but if somebody was to cut me off, I'm hauling a giant tank of liquid, I can't just stop on a dime.
yeah,
And, while it's a thick liquid, it still surges, and, I have to stop multiple times to come to a complete stop when I have to stop hard because of the way the liquid surges.
yeah. Oh, yeah.
Dangerous. Ever since COVID, which I could tell you about COVID too, because I almost died from that.
Yeah,
But
you can talk about that.
ever since 2020 when the pandemic really kind of hit it off, after that the general demeanor of people on the road has changed, for the worse. Everybody's in their own little bubble. Nobody cares. Nobody cares about the people around them. Everybody's in a big hurry, and
Mhm.
you know, yeah, everybody's on their phones when they're driving.
Oh, yes. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it used to be when I first started driving truck, I could look down at the vehicles beside me, and I might see somebody's butt cheeks or some breasts or
Yeah,
something.
being silly or asking somebody to, like, blow your horn, yeah.
And then there's people that are face right in their phone the whole time, and it's like,
Ugh,
man,
yeah.
I miss the old days.
Oh, yeah. I can, that hits me personally. My husband's grandma, she was 83. She's a little Southern old lady from Kentucky, healthy as you can be, a little spitfire. She still worked 40 hours a week, and actually in 2015, she was on her way from home from work, and somebody was on their phone emailing, texting, went left of center and killed her instantly. So that's very hard for me. I'm very anti being on your phone while you're driving. Like, I have Progressive, and I have an app that stays up on my phone all times, and it will stop me from using my phone while I'm driving. I get points if I do, and it comes off of my insurance and stuff like that. So I think it's great that
Yeah.
some companies have that out there because it is such a horrible thing and it's so common. So
Oh, what's surprising is the amount of people that do it while driving semis too.
yeah,
And
yeah.
there's some significant fines and penalties for truck drivers who get caught doing it.
Mhm.
But because we sit up higher, it's harder for the police to
To
actually see
see.
the truck drivers doing that. So I think that there's way too many people getting away with it.
Yeah, I know. And that's me. I like that we have technology at our hands, but it's become too much. I wish that we did just have the little flip phone still, not need to be on social media all day, every day. And yeah, it
Mhm.
definitely impacts your driving. And I'm not saying I'm perfect. We've all used our phones while we're driving. I
I'm not
listen to
guilty of
music.
that at all. I swear.
We've all done it, even if we've had those experiences, but it's
Yeah.
horrible. Like, I have a younger brother that I know he's pretty frequent on it, and, it kills
Mhm.
me just thinking about it, like, "Get off your phone." So that touches me really personally. You had mentioned in your notes that you had sent me, and I just kinda touch on that a little bit, just the way you worded it really hit me as you're driving an 80,000-pound missile, especially with all the mental health stuff, everything else, being overworked and tired and all those things, and I know there are some, like, rules with truck driving where you can only work a set amount of hours or you have to take breaks, but do they really enforce those, or do people really
Oh
follow
yeah.
those? Okay,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. Now, I will say this though, because there's exceptions to the rules for hours of service.
Mhm.
With me working in the construction industry, it's nothing to work 16 to 18 hours a day.
Yeah.
And the truck drivers can do that, and it sucks
Yeah.
a lot to
Yeah.
be completely honest, because by the end of the day, you're so damn tired, you can't keep your eyes open, and
Yeah.
caffeine can only do so much.
Yeah,
But
absolutely.
yeah, almost every carrier out there requires electronic logs now that are, over the road drivers. It's still not so much for the local drivers, but
Mhm.
again, for construction, it's a little bit different. The rules are
Right.
a little bit more lax, and you know, I drive to Detroit every day, and because I'm within a 200-mile radius of where I drive, I don't have to, follow those hours of
Mhm.
service rules as well. So
Right. That makes sense. Yeah. Thanks for explaining that a little bit more for us. I'm glad there are those, but like you said, the local companies not as much because you could work an 8-hour day or a 16-hour day. Sure, it depends on weather and jobs and all those things. So,
yeah, yeah, we stay pretty busy in the summer. So
oh yeah, my husband works a seasonal job, so I understand that. So,
mhm.
you were dealing with your injuries while you're still working. What has that been like for you?
I'm in constant pain, 24/7, 7 days a week. It's ever since I broke my back, it's been a struggle. If I bend or twist the wrong way, I can slip a disc, and when I slip a disc, it's one of the most excruciating things you can imagine. It's a struggle. I'm literally in the worst kind of career you could be in for this kind of injury that I have, but I
Yeah.
also can't really go and work in factories because they require a lot of standing and bending and
Mm,
twisting and lifting. And
yeah.
um, it used to be when I first injured my back, they told me that I would probably lose my ability to walk by the age of 40, and I'm 43 now. So here I am still walking, and I ride bikes and stuff. But um, it's a heavy thing to have put on your mind when you're so young. You're losing your career. You're being told you're going to lose the ability to walk. Like what reason do you have to go on?
Yeah.
Um,
Absolutely.
but yeah, there's that, and then being neurodivergent doesn't help either.
No, it doesn't. I'm glad though in our society and, as I said, us as millennials and our generation, like, mental health is not so taboo anymore, even as kids, bringing something up to our parents or something, just like, whatever, because that's how they were brought up. I'm so glad that it's talked about more. It's becoming more common to talk about and seek help, and that's something I'm trying to do with my podcast is bring more light to that is, everybody needs help sometimes. Everybody should be able to get that help. It shouldn't be turned away or looked down on if you need that help.
Mhm.
Um, and I know you go through your pain and it's, you started your addiction for medication. Do you take medication now for your pain? And how does that work with having the addiction, with still taking medication?
Nothing for the pain. I
No,
take
no.
nothing. No,
Okay.
I occasionally I'll take like a Tylenol or something, but no, I'm kind of numb to the pain.
Yeah.
When it gets to the point to where it's so bad that I can't walk or move or pick anything up, then I am
Right.
often out for a week or two and I can't do
Oh,
anything.
yeah.
Um, the
I'm sure with your line of work as well, and it's something that I'm passionate about, and I'm not sure how you feel about it, with medical marijuana, recreational marijuana being legal. I'm sure you can't even go down that avenue if you wanted to because of the profession that you're in to even get any kind of relief at all. So,
It wouldn't help with this kind of pain.
no.
It's nerve pain. Whenever I
Yeah.
slip a disc, what it does is your vertebrae will slide over each other,
Mhm.
and it literally pinches all those nerves in your spinal column.
Yeah,
And
and there's really no way to help that. Yeah.
no, it's awful. It's the
Yeah. Ugh.
worst. Well, it's not the worst. I've
Right.
actually experienced what's considered the worst thing that you can experience medically for pain. It's something called trigeminal autonomic cephalgia. It's also known as suicide headaches.
Oh, okay.
Back in 2020, at the very beginning of the year, I spent about maybe it was closer to 4 months. Do you remember? Like 3 or 4 months. It was, yeah, panic attacks with it because you never know when it's going to strike. But
Mm.
it's considered medically one of the most painful, if not the most painful, medical condition you can experience without dying. Um, but It's I don't even fully understand it because they don't fully understand it, but,
Yeah.
for whatever reason, I was lucky and it went away after a few months. There's plenty of people that don't, but,
Mm.
um, don't quote me on this, but it's something like it's over 20% of people who suffer from it end up killing themselves. That's why they call it the
Oh,
suicide headaches.
right, all of that pain and pressure and yeah.
And I actually had an accident, because I was driving and had an episode of it, and it's just the most blinding pain you can imagine.
Yeah.
Yeah, I couldn't function, and I drove right into the rear end of somebody's car because I couldn't even stop my car.
Yeah.
And then, of course, later that year, I ended up with COVID, and that almost killed me, so that was fun. Um,
Yeah. COVID is something, yeah, I know. I personally, I don't have what you have, but I've suffered migraines since I was about 10 years old. I get thunderclap migraines and things like that. So I do
so
know,
that too.
probably not to the extent of you, but I do know how crippling that pain is. And people that have
Mhm,
never experienced that, they just think you're like saying, like I've had people my whole life like, it can't be that bad. Why can't you work? Or why you need to lay in the dark? Or why are you puking because you have a headache? Like, no, you don't
mhm.
understand the pain in my head. It feels like it's literally going to explode. So I do understand that to an extent. So
Yeah, the THC, that was like having a hot poker hammered into my eyeball and then through the
yeah.
back of my skull. It was like
Ugh.
just the most ridiculous pain you can imagine. And
Yeah. Well, ugh, I'm sorry you had to go through that. I'm glad that it's gotten better for you. I hope that it doesn't come back, in full force for you
um,
anytime. So
I don't know if I
yeah.
could survive that again. That was
Yeah.
awful.
I
And
could
again,
totally see why they call that the suicide. Yeah.
yeah.
So, at what point did all of this turn into something that I want to build something, or what made you want to start your Lavender Edge Systems?
Well, last summer, uh, and I'm still going through this, but going through a breakup, and it set me off on a path of like self discovery. And I was a little bit sad, and just wanted to just better understand myself. And I started doing research online, listening to podcasts and stuff like that. And then my best friend passed away like a couple months after that, and then I kind of really started spiraling. I was drinking like real heavy, and um, I uh, I started using an app called Pi to have somebody to talk to. It's like a chat bot that's supposed to be empathetic. And
Mhm.
while I was using it, I started noticing that it would do something what's called hallucinations. It's a common thing with chatbots where they'll start to give you wrong information, or they'll misquote you and things like that. And it can be really frustrating to deal with, but unfortunately, it's also led to people unaliving themselves as a result of some of these things. It's a pretty awful thing. Quite a quite a limitation that they have. And so at the time I didn't have any insurance, and I couldn't go and see my doctors, and I was dealing with this depression and anxiety, and it was crippling. Still having to go out and drive a truck. And um I finally got an appointment in January, and leading up to that I had been taking notes. Because I was using this app, I was identifying patterns in my own behavior, and I started writing all these symptoms down because it was helping me remember them. And I took this piece of paper and showed my doctor. He got me on a medication that didn't really do anything, but the same day that I gave him that piece of paper is when it kind of hit me. It was like, this could be better.
Yeah.
There's a better way to do this. So
Mhm.
I started using another AI chat bot to help me work out these thoughts, and then I came up with a crude version of Lavender. And I printed out a summary for my next appointment. During that time, I was able to identify patterns that were related to my COVID experience. As a matter of fact, I know it's an ongoing thing with COVID, and the research is being done with it. But I was able to identify exactly what happened to my brain.
Mm.
And I didn't take a diagnosis into my doctor. I took my symptoms in.
Mhm.
And through my own research, I suggested, maybe we try this specific kind of medication. And we did. And the medication actually helped a great deal. And that's really when it hit me, like, this is what I gotta do. I gotta make
Yeah.
a version of this system where people can talk to it, and it makes these summaries to, give to the doctor, um, so the patient can have that voice that they would otherwise not have. You
Mhm.
know, when you go into a doctor's appointment, you got a million things going through your head,
Yeah.
you can't get all the thoughts out, and you have a very
Mhm.
limited amount of time, so it's like, "Well, how do I tell my doctor all these things that I feel are relevant
Mhm.
and, get the care that I need?"
Yeah.
Um, that's kind of what my system's designed to do, you know? Um, this medication that he put me on, I knew that it could help me in 2 different ways. It would help with my anxiety and depression, and it would also help with the inflammation in my brain, which was
Mhm.
caused by hypoxia from my COVID experience, which I found out through my research, the hypoxia can last for years, with
Mhm.
the inflammation that takes place, and,
Yeah.
I had lost my sense of smell. 5 years I couldn't smell. I can smell now because of this medication.
That's
And because of
amazing.
my system,
Yeah.
because of what I designed. So, um, if what I designed, even the crudest version of it, um, the crude version helped. If I come up with, what I have come up with it, and I'm still working on it. There's a lot of work to do, but um, this could help other people speak to their doctors in a way that they otherwise wouldn't be able to. You know?
Yeah. I love that. Thank you so much for sharing that, and what you're doing, I think is so important, and you made a lot of good points there, like, you go to the doctors, your head is like, "Oh, I'm at the doctors," you get anxious and nervous from that. I've had really bad experiences with doctors myself. I've always been a plus size woman and, they always chalk up everything to my weight and stuff like that, and even with my losses, it took me years to find somebody that actually listened to me. So it can be scary to go to the doctor, you kinda shut off a lot of times and you forget all those things, so I think that's awesome that you have that where and every day's different too. You're gonna experience different things and you're not gonna remember at some point, especially like you said, you have the issues going on with your brain from COVID, depression, all of that eats away our memory. And some days we may remember something, the next day we don't. So I think
Yeah.
that's awesome that you have that. It's right there. You can give them that
Mhm.
information. You can see the patterns. Like you said, you learned what was going on with you because you were able to write it down every day and do research. So that's so awesome.
Yeah, the way that I'm designing this is it's going to be like a chat bot for
Mhm.
the user, the patient. The idea is to make this a medical um, um, software.
Mhm.
And, when the patient's using it, it'll be just like any other chatbot. However, it's going to connect to your medical records in the sense that, if your doctor says you should try a certain type of coping mechanism, it'll help remind you to do these things.
Mhm.
But what it is also going to do is that during the conversations, it's going to keep track of your conversations, and it will actually encrypt your conversations, strip out any type of private thoughts and identifiers of yourself, and then it'll send it over to your doctor in the form of a summary.
That's
And
awesome.
what I've done is I've actually built a local database using over 13 million FDA documents and medical peer-reviewed medical journals that are built right into the system. And what this will do is the AI will actually search through all of it. It'll
Mhm.
identify any patterns that you have had through your conversations with the chatbot, and it'll put a little summary on a screen for the doctor to say, "Hey, this patient has been experiencing anxiety, and that anxiety has been happening at this time of day every day.
Yeah.
Um, this is what could be causing it," and it'll give the doctor some ideas. It'll give it some journals to look at so the doctor can make the final decision as to what is the cause. So it's not going to diagnose anything.
Right. Yeah.
We're staying away from that, but it will be a tool for both the patient and the doctor. The doctor is going to be able to see your conversation, not your conversations, but the summary of your conversations
Mhm.
um, from all the time that you use it. Ideally, people could use this for years and it'll keep
Yeah.
track of all that for years. And over the years, it'll be able to identify all these different things that are taking place. And when you finally get to go and see your doctor for that one time a month or one time every couple of months, you're going to have a whole summary of all those things and you don't have to remember it anymore. Your doctor's going to see it in a
Mhm.
summary. Your doctor's not gonna know your private thoughts. Your doctor's not gonna know that you were sitting there thinking about killing yourself. He's just gonna know that you were having some ideation that was very dark and, you know,
Mhm.
he will then be able to address it. And one of the features that I'm building into this also is really important here is that if a patient does get on there and starts talking about wanting to kill themselves, like this is like top tier crisis type of stuff.
Mhm.
The idea is for the AI to immediately stop the conversation, say, "Hey, look, I want you to speak to a real person," and it
Yeah.
will immediately spit out on the screen a phone number to call. It'll have the 988 number for the crisis hotlines,
Mhm.
and it will remove itself from the conversation in that sense. I mean, it'll still be available to talk to, so the patient can
Yeah.
keep talking, but it's gonna stop and say, "Hey, listen, you've gotta talk to a person. A real person is gonna be able to do more for you than what an AI will."
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome, and I think that's really important that you added that, and that's something I touched with on Mary, that's what she comes across and wants people to know, like, don't reach out when you're in that moment of crisis. That's not what I'm here for. And if you do, unfortunately, you do unalive yourself, I don't want that on me, and that's the same thing. You don't want chat to be responsible for that. And they need to get immediate help then. But I think that's so amazing and that's awesome what you're building. That's so cool that the doctors will have that information right there because a lot of times, you have to keep going back and keep going back till they actually figure out what's wrong. Try this, try that, try this, try that. This way they kind of see what you've been going through. They kind of already have a heads up of what your patterns are, as you said, what times of days you're going and having these thoughts or having panic attacks and stuff. So that's really awesome. I know I got a little sneak peek of the app and it looks really cool. And I know you're building it all on your own. And as I said before we got on camera, I do QA testing, so I work with development and stuff like that as well, and it's a lot. It's a lot to do
Yeah,
that, and I'm sure,
it's a lot of work.
oh, yeah. And you and I kinda had this conversation before I jumped onto is the benefits of AI, a lot of people look down on AI, but this is another example of how it can help us and how it can help people save their lives and get the help that they need, so
Right. Well, see, I'm a truck driver. I am not a software engineer or developer. I
yeah.
am not a doctor. I'm not a
Yeah.
mental health professional. But I am using the tools that are available to me to build something.
Yes.
Ultimately, once I have my prototype finished and ready to actually present to somebody, um, the idea is to get an actual professional developer to actually go through all of my code
Mhm.
and identify any issues that might exist.
Yeah.
I've been extremely thorough with I use AI to help me, but AI isn't coding everything. AI isn't perfect. I'm not perfect.
Right.
What I have is the logic behind the system in my mind, and I can use that to build the tools or build the system that I'm developing right now. And
Yeah.
I'm very close to having the fully functioning prototype right now. I was hoping to have it up and running by the end of the day yesterday, but unfortunately, it took something like 12 hours for the system to go through 13 million medical documents and turn them
Yeah, I
into.
can imagine. Yeah.
It turned that into a format to where it can read it in milliseconds instead of hours.
Yeah.
So that way it can be helpful right there on the spot when people need it the most.
Yeah, that's amazing, and that's what's helpful with AI too is, that would be years of research or reading and going through all that, and this is helping. As I mentioned in my own job, they use Claude. I don't know if you use Claude, but he, will actually code for you and everything. So, like, there's so many different ways that you can get stuff out there faster, of course, you still have to check things. AI is not perfect, but, it
Yeah.
helps us in so many ways, and as you and I mentioned before we even got on here, like you kind of have to use it to not fall behind in life or the way the world is going. Like you have to use it to your benefit. I use it. It's helped me with
Mhm.
my podcast. I know I would not be where I am without it at this point. So
Yeah. Well, and I'm using AI to help me design an AI to help people.
yeah, yeah, I love it. So thank you so much for
AI is
sharing. Yeah,
scary.
go ahead.
It's scary for some people, AI,
Yeah,
and for good reasons. We've seen the movies. We know that
yeah,
there is that very real possibility that at some point in time, AI is gonna take over the world, like
absolutely.
maximum overdrive, we're gonna have
Oh
semis
yeah,
chasing us around wanting to kill us.
yeah.
But, until that happens, we can use it to our benefit.
Yeah. Yeah, there's definitely the downfalls, like, I'm big into the environment, and I kinda beat myself up, all these data centers and stuff they need to run the AI and stuff, and that's, like, a whole 'nother thing we could go down, but the world is already a crazy place. And as you mentioned, all these movies and things is kind of turning into that as time goes. So like we kind of have to go with the future and keep advancing. So,
Well, you mentioned the data centers. This is an
mhm.
important point to bring up here is that my system won't be using them.
That's
Like, not
awesome.
even a
Yeah.
little bit. The way it's designed is that there's gonna be a server located directly in the, clinics or the hospitals.
Okay. Yeah.
This won't ever touch a cloud. It is
Yeah.
never gonna touch, those big server farms. Your phone's gonna connect to the server that's at your doctor's office and nowhere else. Um,
Yeah.
it piggybacks off the internet, but it's encrypted the whole time, so, um it's very unlikely that it would ever be, you know, breached in that sense.
Yeah.
The only way to get into these systems will be to actually go on site and steal them, and even
Yeah.
then, the data that's sitting on there is encrypted just as heavy, if not heavier than, the military uses, on
Yeah.
even a higher level of encryption than is what is required by HIPAA, and the FDA, for all of this, so
Yeah.
it is important because, you don't want your data to be stolen. You don't want people to see your thoughts. You don't
Mhm.
wanna see people you don't want strangers to see how sad you are. You don't want them to see your
Yeah.
personal information.
Yeah.
So, I'm, taking that very seriously. That's at the forefront of everything I'm doing is the safety, the sovereignty of the whole system, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, that's a really important point, and I did see that, in reading on what you're created, your posts and everything, that it's not cloud-based, and that's so important, especially with all the HIPAA rules and everything like that, and people can know that they're safe and not all their information is gonna get leaked out there, because especially when it
Mhm.
comes to mental health, a lot of us keep that private. Some people, we're open talking about it, and I know it's hard for you to talk about it yourself, and I have moments where it's hard for me to bring up things, so not everybody is comfortable talking about it or getting their information out there. So I think that's awesome that you
Yeah.
build that extra security in that.
Well, the biggest thing is, when you wanna talk about your mental health, it's really difficult to say, like you said, a lot of those dark
Mhm.
thoughts. You don't want to get out there and you don't want to tell a doctor that stuff, especially when there's a risk of being put in the funny farm.
Yeah,
This
exactly.
happened to me before. And as a result, I, I don't say all the things that I should probably say.
Yeah.
Um, but with this system, knowing that your thoughts are never going to be actually presented to the doctor, only a
Mhm.
summary, just given the general description of what those thoughts are. You
Yeah.
know, if you're thinking about suicide, but you're not trying to kill yourself, but you don't want your doctor to know that you're thinking about suicide, it's just going to say on the doctor's end that you're having dark thoughts
Yeah. I like
and
that.
leave it at that.
Yeah.
And this way, the idea, the hope, and this is how I've been using it is that I'm a lot more open with the AI than I would be with the doctor.
Yeah.
Um,
Absolutely.
I'm more willing to put out my thoughts on this because it's the only thing that'll listen to me and not judge me.
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
have to feel like I'm being judged. I don't have to feel like I have to mask my thoughts and my emotions. I could
Mhm.
be completely honest with this and it's going to respond in a way that validates my feelings and emotions, but doesn't encourage me to unalive myself.
Yeah.
That's already been written into the code. It will never do that. You know.
That's amazing, and that's important to add that as you said, you can reach out to ChatGPT or Copilot or Claude or any of those, and, like, that could end up going down a bad path, and I have seen cases where you've even mentioned where people have unalived themselves because they took advice from AI or something, so that's great that you have that black built right into the system for you.
Absolutely. And we don't want to see anything like that happening.
No.
The idea behind this is to help improve the quality of life for people, but also potentially save people's lives. You know,
Yeah.
um, there was a study done. I can't remember the name of the study, but the study suggested that after first contact with a psychiatrist or a hospital for a mental health crisis, those first 7 days afterwards, people are like 300 times more likely to
Mhm.
unalive themselves. It's not 300% more likely, it's 300 times more likely. So it's more like 3,000% more likely to kill themselves.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the idea behind this is to stop that. Well,
Yeah.
when you first make that contact, you're waiting for the medication to start working. You're
Mhm.
waiting for a doctor to call you and say, "Hey, we got an appointment." And
Yeah.
my experience was back in January. I was trying to get in to see a psychiatrist. I got the referral, and they weren't taking new patients.
Yeah.
that was soul crushing for me. I was
Yeah.
ready to just end it all because it's like, well, how am I going to get help? I
Yeah.
need help. How am I going to get the help? The
Yeah.
idea behind my system is to bridge that gap between that first contact and the next appointment, to
Yeah.
help you, to be a voice for you, to be a ear for you. You know,
Mhm.
we don't
Yeah.
want people
That
to kill themselves.
No, that's so important too, and I've had my own experience with that is even if you have insurance, a lot of times mental health is not covered. And if you do find something that is covered, it's getting the appointment. As you said, it could be weeks or months from now, and you're sitting there with all your thoughts like, well, how am I supposed to get through this now? So yeah,
Hmm.
that's so important. And I think it's wonderful. I'm excited to get this out there for you and help you share more on it. I have one more question about the app before we kind of wrap up and do some lighthearted stuff just to end our episode here. How did you
Sure.
come up with the name Lavender Edge Systems?
So it's edge computing is what I'm using, the
Okay.
technology. And obviously it's a system, but
Yeah.
lavender is known to be a therapeutic flower, and
Yes.
the it just kind of made sense to me, you know.
I like it. Yeah. I'm big into essential oils. I have been my whole life. I actually started to go to school. I didn't finish, but I was a massage therapist and it was big on the essential oils and stuff like that. And I know lavender is really calming. So I like the name of that. I think it will draw people in. So that's really cool.
Well, and it's not like some kind of weird aggressive name
Yeah.
either. People hear lavender and they're not thinking
Yeah.
something threatening. They're thinking, oh, that's
Yeah.
a flower that
Yeah. You
smells good.
automatically relax when you hear that word or so. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So the AI's name is Lavender, and the company is Lavender Edge Systems LLC.
Awesome. Well, as I said, I'll make sure I share everything. I've already shared some stuff for you, but of course, I'll keep sharing.
Thank you.
Include all your links for you when I post this episode. Make sure everybody can find everything. And as you update, I will update as we go. Once it's live and out there, of course, I'll make sure that all my listeners and followers know that that's a tool that is available for them. So.
I appreciate the support. It means a lot to me. I That can't even be understated.
Oh, well, thank you so much. I appreciate your support, being a listener and a follower and wanting to come on here. I know it hasn't been easy and, you have your anxiety with it and everything, but it does help. And that's the biggest thing I've learned in this podcast is none of us are alone. And I want everybody to feel that they're not alone and know that there's things that they can relate to and people have gone through things that they've gone through. So,
Well, then with people like me, and I know I'm not alone in this. The idea of trying to reach out to talk to people, you don't want to burden people. You don't want to.
yeah,
Like I talk to my mom occasionally, but even then I hold back because I don't want to make her sad.
yeah,
If I
I
sit there and
understand
tell her
that.
that I've been thinking about killing myself, she gets sad, and it's like, well,
Yeah,
I don't want to do that to people. Um,
yeah.
and that's why I wanted to build this app, is because people have those thoughts and they don't want to burden people with it. So this is, an alternative to get help.
Absolutely. Yep. And that's what I'm the same way. I'm always the one I'm the fixer, or I'm the one that everybody comes to. I have the eldest daughter syndrome where I want to take care of everybody and fix everything. So over the years, and that's helped a lot doing this podcast, is like putting my thoughts first and helping myself. And, just doing this and speaking to people has healed me in ways I've never expected. So.
Right.
Well, thank you again. You're familiar with my format, so we're going to do some fun rapid fire just to kind of lighten the mood before we end things. Just like this or that or favorite things. So if you're ready for those, we'll jump into those.
Let's do it.
Coffee or energy drinks?
Energy drinks.
Energy drinks. Do you have a specific brand or flavor you like?
I've been kind of addicted to Monsters here lately. There's a
Yeah.
couple sugar-free flavors that are really delicious, and
Nice. I can never really do energy drinks. I get really jittery with them. I was the general manager at Auntie Pretzels in Sandusky I was there for over 10 years. So I was working 16, 17-hour days, not have a day off for 5 or 6 months at a time. So I was constantly tired. So I did for
yeah.
a little bit. I like the Irish cream, the coffee monsters. I really liked those ones for
Okay.
a while. So those are about the only ones I've ever done. So
Anything with coffee in it, I can't drink it. I don't like the taste
no,
of it. Yeah. No
I
matter how
never.
much you like it.
Yeah. I woke up on my 28th birthday and said, I'm starting to drink coffee today. And I've drank coffee ever since then. I don't know what it was, but I just woke up that day and was like, I'm trying coffee today.
It's got a lovely smell, but I just can't
Yeah.
handle the taste of it. Yeah.
Yeah. We've talked about music a little bit. What is your favorite music lately or one of your favorite songs right now? I know you mentioned that Lorena Shore song, but
Well, no, I seen Lorna Shore in concert just
Yeah.
recently.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
The song was "Another Ghost" by Upon a
Upon a
Burning
burning,
Body.
burning body. That's
Yeah,
right. Yeah.
that I highly recommend checking out the music video. But not
Okay.
just the song. The song is powerful in and of itself, and you can take whatever meaning from it you want, but it has to do with drug addiction and
Hmm.
the idea of not wanting to lose somebody else to drug addiction. Super, super powerful. But I listen to everything. In fact,
Yeah.
we have a mutual friend, Chris,
Mm.
sent me a flyer for a concert that's coming up in August, and it was kind of upsetting because they're performing in the middle of the work week, and
Oh, yeah.
see this tattoo right
Oh,
there.
nice. Yeah.
They're the band Ugly Kid Joe, and
Yeah.
they're performing, and I love that band. They're probably my favorite.
Yeah. That's awesome. I know it sucks when they have the concerts in the middle of the week. It's so hard for all of us to get off work or be able to go to them. So,
Yeah, I listen to a lot of stuff though. I listen to hip hop, grunge. I've been a juggalo for a very long time, so
right. Yeah. Gotta love that. So,
a lot of
are
people are
you,
like, "Oh my god, dirty ass juggalo."
oh, I know. Juggalos are fun. Like, you can have so much fun with Juggalos. They have that big festival down in, like, Southern Ohio every year for them. So, I think
I
it's cool.
hear
I've
next
always
year.
wanted to go to that. So,
I heard that this year they're doing it in a different state, so
oh, okay.
they
Yeah,
do it.
I know yeah, last year they had Amir, which they're one of my favorite bands, so I thought that was really cool that Amir played down there and everything, and they always have a variety of acts and stuff like that too, they have Cottonmouth
Mhm.
Kings a lot of times or like,
Yep. Mm.
all those fun bands, so
Oh, yeah, I've seen all those bands in concert. I've been
yeah.
to thousands. I've been to thousands of shows.
Yeah, music is so important, so.
Mhm.
Night owl or early morning?
Yes,
Yeah. Yes, both, yeah.
whenever I'm awake.
Yeah, I get that. I, like, kinda have to get up early. I like to stay up sometimes, but yeah.
Yeah, here
Favorite
lately.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say here lately, I'm in bed by 4 o'clock in the afternoon, so
Yeah,
I
yeah,
usually wake at night. So
right.
Mhm.
Favorite comfort show?
Comfort show. I would say
If you're
there's
not big
probably three that I go back and
Okay.
forth with that I've watched over and over and over again. But you got NCIS is a good
Nice.
one. House MD
Okay.
and Sons of Anarchy.
No, nice. That's a good combination. So, I like my music, I listen or watch all kinds of genres of shows, so
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah, and you can't go wrong with Shorzy either. So
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
hilarious stuff right there.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Favorite snack?
I don't know.
No.
Apples.
Apples? Hey, apples are good. Do you like red or green apples, or do you like the fancy gala apples or anything like
I
that?
wouldn't call them fancy because they got them in a gigantic pile at Walmart, but galas are pretty good. I
Yeah,
pretty
they are.
so
Yeah, me too. I love apples. I'm a peanut butter girl, so apple and peanut butter is one of my favorite snacks, so
there you go. Yeah, I eat about 2 or 3 apples every day,
nice. They're so good for you for so many reasons, and they help with your appetite, they help you stay full and everything as well, so
and they're delicious.
and they're delicious for sure. Beach or mountains?
Everything.
Yeah,
I've
I'm sure.
traveled the country from coast to coast, border to border.
Yeah,
The ocean is cool. The beach is cool. The mountains are amazing. Um,
yeah.
I can't say I have a favorite. I like it all. I like to
Do you have a
travel.
favorite state that you've been to or that you would, if you weren't in Ohio, would wanna live in?
Um, I'm a big fan of like Tennessee.
Nice, yeah.
Tennessee and northern Georgia are really cool. Um,
Yeah,
you got the forests and mountains out there.
yeah,
Um, you know, I've been all over, so it's hard to say.
yeah,
I probably won't ever move out of Ohio. I'll probably
right.
be here forever. So
I get that. I
I
am a
could be a
little bit of
millionaire and never leave.
right. I've said that too. We'll build a house. Like it's one of our dreams to have like a family compound, with everybody has their own little piece of land and can grow and live off the land together. So that's a dream.
Yeah.
If I ever won the lottery, I'd still travel and stuff, but my main home would be here. So
I've, I've never had a desire to leave the country.
yeah, no.
Yeah. A lot of people talk about it, like, "Oh, I wanna go to Europe," or "I wanna go
Yeah,
here or there," and it's like, "Man, why don't you go to another state?" Every
right.
state has something unique to offer, and
Absolutely. There's
we
so
have a
much cool
very big
things.
country.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And like you said, there's something cool in every state, and a lot of times people don't realize that even Ohio has a really awesome me and my husband talk about it all the time, like, we have a wide variety. You can go beaches, you go down Southern Howard, you got the hills and stuff. They're not
Mhm.
exactly mountains, but pretty close. And then you have
With
all the big
the hills.
national parks, so oh, yeah.
Mhm. Well, and you
Yeah.
also got those burial mounds in Southern
Mhm.
Ohio that are really cool. We've got
Yeah,
waterfalls,
yeah.
we got
Oh, yeah.
mountains,
Ohio's
we've got
beautiful.
mountains, and
Yeah,
we've got swamps.
for sure. I
Ohio's
personally
very diverse.
yeah, I like the Carolinas. If I was ever to move out of Ohio, I really like that area, but I also like
Mhm.
towards the west, like Montana and everything. I just love the mountains and the big country, so I do love that. But yeah, I'll
My
probably
youngest
stay in
son is
Ohio
down there
too,
in
so
South Carolina right now.
oh, really?
Yeah, he's down there visiting his grandfather, so
Aw, nice.
yeah,
I love
he
it
told
down
me
there.
that 2 days ago it was 100 degrees down there, so
Oh
we
gosh, yeah.
we can keep it.
Right, yeah. Something small that makes you feel good.
Something small that makes me feel good. I don't know. Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah,
I
my
mean, it
kid
could even just be your kids, a hug from your
yeah,
kids or
mhm.
talking to them, so
Yeah, just hearing "I love you" from my kids, probably
yeah.
that's probably the best feeling you can get.
Absolutely, and that's what you do, and that's why you're here, to live for your kids and be there for them, so I understand that.
Mm.
One thing you're looking forward to.
Making my project a reality.
Yeah,
Um, I just filed the business and, we're getting closer to making this a reality, and, the idea of helping people with this
yeah.
it's pretty powerful stuff.
Yeah, that's something awesome to look forward to, and I'm sure it helps with your own mental health struggles. It gives you that, drive and that passion, and that's something with my podcast, you've touched on that a little bit, and I did kind of skim over that, but grief never changes, mental health never changes. It never fully goes away. It's just how we work through it and process it. And we're gonna all have those days where we don't want to be here anymore, that we're, on the floor in a ball. It happens, but it's
Mhm.
having something to help you get through it and something to look forward to that really helps us. So,
Yeah.
well, thank you so much, Jonathan. This has been wonderful. Thank you for sharing your story and being open about all of this. I know it's not easy, and I really respect what you're doing and what you're building. If you guys connected with this episode, make sure to share it, and I'll have everything linked if you want to follow Jonathan or support Lavender Edge Systems. As always, whatever you're going through, you're not alone in it. I love you guys, and thank you for being here.
Huh.
All right, friends, that's a wrap on today's episode of Auntie Mel Life Unfiltered. Thank you for spending this time with me and stepping into the real, the raw, the messy, and the magical, because we don't do surface level here. If this episode hit home, made you laugh, or helped you feel a little less alone, go ahead and follow the podcast and share it with someone who might need it too. And remember, you are never too much, never too little, and never alone on this wild ride. I'll meet you back here next time for more truth, more feels, and more unfiltered goodness. This is Auntie Mel signing off. Stay real, stay kind, and stay unfiltered. Thanks for hanging out with me today. This is Auntie Mel. If this episode made you laugh, think, or feel a little less alone, please subscribe, like, and leave a comment. Sharing it really helps this community grow. You can also find me on Facebook, Instagram, Spotify, and right here on YouTube. I'll see you in the next episode of Life Unfiltered.